We're going to be jumping out of the channel right away, Corinne. So don't worry, we're going to be going to a completely separate channel away from this. So, yep, no worries. We're just making sure this is right. We're at the mercy of this program. So,
I'm gonna switch over Bydey to live on stream.
okay.
Great, thanks. Well, good afternoon. At least it is here in our neck of the woods. Yeah, so welcome, I guess, to another really exciting run here of a Link to the Past for a Link to the Cure, and of course, what better way, in this case, to play this awesome game that we have loved for many years than to play it with potentially one of your best friends. You get to use a lot of teamwork, and you get to have a lot of fun, and hopefully you get to work together to get an even better time. And of course, we always really want to go fast. We have two amazing and talented veterans of the community of runners here today, Bydey and Fricker. Their individual NMGPBs are 124. 51 and 124.52, so they're actually even more well suited beyond their friendship to be able to do this run. I'm Clear Mouse. I'm here joined today by Chex, another someone pretty well known here in the community. Welcome, Chex. Are you ready for this run?
Hey, Clear Mouse. I'm ready, and it looks like our runners are off as well.
Yeah. So
So it's co-op. So what does this mean? Our runners will be sharing items, essentially. When one picks up a major item, here's one right now, lamp. So Fricker picks up the lamp, and now it is in both players' inventory.
Yeah. I mean, so right, and part of, in this case, co-op. It is actually, as you just mentioned here, in the truest sense of co-op, right? In that we actually did see in this case Fricker picking up, as you just mentioned, the lamp. We're gonna actually see a lot of individual, both Bydey and Fricker, are gonna try and pick up as many separate items as possible. While avoiding some of the common ones. Of course, in this case, getting the sword and shield. Not really much option to kind of try and paralyze the work. But if you are going to try and do a co-op run, you want to try and do as much coverage as you possibly can in this case, because every single amount of time that you're spent picking up something else is some amount of time that your partner can actually go and be doing something else.
And we'll see the runners trade places a lot. During the escape sequence, we'll see one pick up one item and the other go to the next room, essentially. So there's not too much divergence in this segment, but soon we'll be splitting apart a little bit more.
Yeah, and you actually just as you mentioned, especially early on in the game, for those of you kind of familiar with this game, many categories, if not all of them, pretty much start with at least some amount of the standard escape sequence. You do need some basic stuff, right? You want the lamp, you want the sword, and you want the sword at least. Shield, is a TBD. Boomerang is kind of nice in this case. But in this case, we actually can see that as part of the, in this case, major item set, you see that Fricker is, basically shoving against the door as he, as fast as he possibly can, basically waiting for Bydey in order to pick up that key. So in this case, once Bydey has the key, Fricker can just use it immediately, and now he has a small, the lead in this case has changed very slightly in Fricker's favor, giving him, in this case, some more time actually to take on the ball and chain guard. So by the time, in theory, the Bydey ends up getting to Zelda Cell, the ball and chain guard will have been vanquished on Fricker's side, and the door will actually be open, because in this case, Fricker got, the big key.
He also booms the ball and chain guard just to stun him, so that's kind of neat to see.
Yeah, right. And so, as Chax mentioned earlier, major items are shared in terms of resources. Actually, we're going to kind of see this once our runners kind of get out of escape. Maybe if we're a little lucky, we can see this as part of the prize pack drops. We haven't actually gotten anything remotely useful out of all of the enemies we end up killing. But in this case, the resources like the bombs, the arrows, the money, rupees specifically, are definitely not shared among the runners. So in this case, if they need some extra ammunition, they're going to have to go, in this case, farm it themselves.
And I wonder how it would be to play co-op with shared resources. That might be another interesting way to do it.
Yeah.
But in terms of our current leaderboard, we do not do it that way.
Yeah, and I think at least somewhat more recently, I guess, like the co-op moved to, I guess, like the Link to the Past online. So actually, in this case, I believe actually Bydey mentioned this, is now you're actually able to play on console as well. At least it seemed like for him and for Fricker, this was a pretty significant tech advantage in that now you don't always have to, you're not necessarily only limited in order to be playing on emulator. So for all those console fans, this could be you right next to your best friend running A Link to the Past. And of course, we see part of co-op, right? As much as you can, you want to be able to parallelize the work. So at the very end, or at least and many segments of the run, you want to try and have certain points where basically you're synced up, so you can kind of go do the next thing here. And sometimes you do have to wait a little bit, but the whole goal is whenever you are maybe slightly ahead, you are free to go do that next thing. So in this case, your partner can very slightly catch up, and then potentially go on, his this case divergent path. Yeah, you see Fricker here taking the lead in trying to clear out the pests here in the back of Escape, basically getting the rest of the keys, which will allow Bydey in this case to just get out of Escape very slightly.
There's something about the key count that may be deceiving, which was that Bydey had 1 but was waiting for the key, and then it showed 2, and then he unlocked the door. So I would be curious about the details, but it is probably just misleading.
Ooh, hey, did Fricker here get rat frames?
Yeah, there it is.
A double Zelda here as well. I'm not even sure if I noticed that in the first one.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So Fricker here, because of his excellent, execution and timing, is going to be able to scroll through these text box, here from Zelda just very slightly quicker, allowing him in this case to get the Sanctuary Heart. And of course, right. So there's certainly, if you're doing this run solo, right, a lot of the choices, especially early on for health, comes down to whether or not you want to pick up Sanctuary Heart, right? Well, here, as actually we'll see, in various other parts of the run, we're actually going to get a lot more nicer equipment, namely, we'll, in this case, I think we'll see like a gold sword, we'll see silver arrows, we'll see powder. All of these things are, these are way too much time and effort for a solo NMG runner to get. But hey, you've got a buddy, and your buddy, maybe just kind of, killing some time. So may as well actually do something productive in this case.
Yeah, now that we're out of this of Escape, the game opens up quite a lot, and there's not too much we can do in the light world at this point, but we do need to collect rupees for Zora's flippers later, so Houlihan Room is a good place to start. So we'll see Fricker collecting rupees in this run.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, you mentioned Zora, so of course as part of the, the standard, NMG route, not only do we need Zora money, we also do need some pod money. And so, in this case, the fastest way, especially without gloves, I'm not even sure actually with gloves, if you go and like farm the rupee caves, it'll be necessarily much faster. But certainly this early stage on, especially when you got, a little bit of extra time, Houlihan is a really great way to pick up some extra rupees. We're going to be able to see basically some more rupee farming later, and of course it's just much more efficient in this case for Fricker to do everything. That of course leaves Bydey, wide open in this case to try, and looks like we're gonna get our very first at least dungeon item on Bydey's side, which is actually gonna be the bow.
What I really love about co-op is how runners switch leads, so to speak.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So, while Fricker is entering the dungeon later after doing more stuff in the overworld, we'll see Fricker take the reins of completing this dungeon.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point, right? So of course, those of you, of course, in the vanilla game, why do we probably prioritize Eastern Palace? Not only is it because of the first dungeon, we do get some boots, but in this case, for those of you who may not necessarily, appreciate the leading up to the boots to try and get some, longer hallways, we're actually going to see some nice, in this case, parallelization. You just mentioned this. Yeah, Bydey is actually going to go and pick up the middle of the key. Fricker is look at that sync, right? Like right there, like ready to open up the chest. He in this case has the bow, so in this case it also goes into Bydey's inventory as well. But of course now, once Fricker defeats Armos and gets the first pendant, checks. Do you know where Bydey wants to go wait for the boots to appear?
Well, I would say at Sahasrarla's hut.
That is that would also be my guess as well. So in this case, a Fricker, taking the first, I would say, the sacrifice, right, on as part of the team, right? It's a team effort in order to get the boots. But we are going to see in this case getting the boots just slightly faster, I would say, than the normal kind of like 11-minute mark, for a normal NMG run.
And what's also funny as a consequence is that Fricker does not have to walk from Eastern to Saha's hut.
Oh, yeah. That's true. That's true.
He can dash.
Yeah. All right. Nice heart container on Fricker's side. Gets the green pendant, and of course, immediately once that thing lands, Bydey is right there, ready to talk to Sahasrarla, and we're gonna. Well, in this case, we're gonna be able to see, in this case, Fricker and Bydey dash right out of their respective places.
Yeah. So as soon as the pendant drops on Fricker's side, Bydey can talk to Sahasrarla. And Bydey's gonna take some rupees as well. So it's not just Fricker collecting rupees. And I don't recall exactly how these will be spent. I suspect it's at pod. But we'll see.
Yeah, we will. Alright, so we do have.
I think I'm wrong about that.
You know what? This is gonna be part of the fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is gonna be part of the fun. In that, we are, so of course Bydey's got, I think a good amount of free time, a little bit of extra on his hands, so certainly a little bit of extra money isn't gonna hurt. You actually do see that nice chest turn on Fricker's side as well, something not as often seen, I think, in some of these runs. But again, some more, in this case, teamwork, and efficiency on Bydey and Fricker's side, right? So of course, normally after Eastern Palace, you get the boots. What's the very next thing you do? Well, you need the book in order to enter desert. In this case, I have a buddy. Or in this case, Fricker has Bydey as a buddy. So Bydey, in this case, is just going to go and get the book. And hey, lo and behold, Fricker can now take the lead into going to desert. For those of you who actually have maybe seen some of the co-op runs versus the single player NMG runs, certainly, selfishly, I am miffed at the fact that Bydey, wanting to save a little bit more time and maybe give Fricker, a little bit extra edge on landmost, he is actually going to get the Ice Rod right now. So of course, typically, wouldn't necessarily do this just because it's out of the way. Is a little bit more time consuming, but Bydey is willing to help his partner out here, and we are going to see in this case Ice Rod landmost versus probably more used, but the more familiar bow landmost as opposed to the normal single energy run.
Thriving clear mouse of a vanilla single player landmo fight. Hunoko.
Sometimes checks, sacrifices have to be made in the name of speed and efficiency. So
that's right.
Unfortunately, but no, but Ice Rod landmost is also a really actually impressive fight. For those of you who might be more familiar with maybe like the randomizer, has been kind of catching on the last couple of years. Of course, I think Fire Rod is probably the weapon of choice, especially just because the Fire Rod comes out a lot quicker, but in this case, the Ice Rod is just as powerful, but does require a little bit of extra timing and skill in order to make a good fight.
And I love this route. Since Fricker is in Desert Palace collecting power gloves, Bydey water walks from Ice Rod Cave through a whirlpool directly to Death Mountain.
Yeah, and of course, I think it's also similar. I think to the spirit of the original NMG run. There is no save and quit, right? So you are going to see a lot of really cool overworld travel, especially pre-flutes, and some water walking using the portals. It's actually just really cool to see this type of efficiency on the overworld. Now that being said, of course, one of the really nice things that we would like to have for overworld travel in the light world is that flute, and the good news, of course, is that because we've got some teamwork action going on, we are going to be able to get the flute significantly earlier than the normal NMG run.
Right. So, I think that is... Sorry.
I was actually
the game, not my notes.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say like as Bydey's kind of like making his way up to Death Mountain, right? I think no amount of teamwork and cooperation is gonna be able to counter those death rocks, unfortunately.
Yeah. We need powder.
We do need powder. We will get powder at some point soon. All right, so Fricker, of course, taking on Ice landmost with the Ice Rod. Looks like again, Ice Rod timing is just a little bit trickier, but looks like what I'm gonna get my favorite fight here of the entire game, which is bow landmost in this case, and Fricker's got plenty of arrows to spare in this case.
And bombs.
And bomb. Yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. He went to the dam and got 3 bombs out of it. All right, so right, so I think as we mentioned before in Eastern Palace, right? Bydey went over, took the long path, without boots, all the way around to the vanilla big key chest of Eastern Palace, getting the big key. He is also, he was so good at it. Fricker's like, you know what, Bydey, can you sit through Hera basement and get the big key as well? I feel like you've got some experience there, and in this case, Bydey is going to be doing the exact same thing.
Bydey's the big key butler.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So as part of, I think you mentioned this earlier, right? Fricker is pretty interested in probably getting some Zora cash, so we're actually gonna get some lesser seen chess here in the vanilla game. Which in this case, so it's actually going to be pretty good knowledge. Act as is to remind ourselves of where one of the 100 rupees are. It is actually off of this very nice person here, just sitting here in a cave.
It's a secret to everybody.
It is. Shh, don't tell. So, as in this case, Bydey is making his way up to Tower Para. Ooh, are we gonna get or it looks like just gonna be a very traditional Hera bomb jump over to the Moon Pearl. So of course, with that Moon Pearl, we are, both Bydey, of course, and Fricker are gonna be able to keep their state in the Dark World. Fricker is gonna farm up a little bit of extra cash, get him over that 600 mark. You happen to notice, kind of at the vicinity of, where he is, he is, I would say, pretty poised in this case to, once Bydey ends up collecting their collective third pendants, he is going to be able to claim the infamous Master Sword in this case. Oh, and the powder at some point later, of course.
Finally.
Yes. Oh, that was actually a really nice fight actually on Bydey's side for taking down Moldoran.
Yeah. And after a few tree pulls, Fricker is all set and is pulling Master Sword.
Mm-hmm. The best things, of course, in Hyrule are meant to be shared with friends. As Bydey is exiting Hera, in this case, we already see that because so conveniently Fricker has given him the Master Sword, what better time would it be in this case to claim the Ether Medallion? Normally you have to kind of wait all the way, go get the Master Sword from the pedestal, go kill go defeat Agnum in his tower. At some, I don't know, half an hour later, then you're able to go get Ether. No, Bydey is literally right there, like right next to the tablet, just ready to go and reading it. And I think maybe just as a note of, this type of co-op run, so I think not only, of course, it's co-op, I would say pretty fun, right, to play with, to play with a friend. You can see that in this case, Bydey and Fricker are trying to do, as much different things as they possibly can, right? You're gonna have to do a couple of common things, right? Like, you do see that Bydey and Fricker had to go through at least most of Escape. Of course, at the end, both of them are gonna have to kill Ganon. But, if there are just certain, parts that maybe, your friend is maybe more consistent at, maybe you're more consistent at some of the other segments, this is, I think, actually a really good opportunity to be able to kind of split up and trying to, just play to your strengths. In this case, so maybe if you don't necessarily like, maybe like Skull Woods and beating Mothula, just tell your buddy or your partner to go kill Moth for you.
And we have Bydey doing Aghanim's Tower, and Fricker will not be participating in this tower.
Yeah.
And has a lot of overworld stuff to do. I think Fricker is not in a rush here, so I think Fricker will be waiting for Bydey. That, I believe, is typically how this goes.
Yeah.
So, like, I was thinking of ways we could optimize a couple of screen transitions on Fricker's side, using water walks perhaps, but it really doesn't matter. In this section. So.
Yeah, you bring up actually a pretty good a lead-in point as well, right? Because of course that the time, of course, it takes for Agnum's Tower is pretty much all the time that Fricker has basically to kind of like play around with. So if he can get to Zora maybe a little bit faster, as you just said, but if he's still kind of at least waiting basically for the blue balls to kind of finish, well, I guess he can maybe twiddle his thumbs in a different location, right? As opposed to maybe right, kind of like near where the near where the portal is going to spawn.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. Like when the game sets those flags, we'll see it throughout. It seems to happen like in the middle of the cutscenes.
Yeah,
it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just interesting how we don't see that in normal gameplay, but that's how it's done. All right, powder is claimed for both runners now.
Yeah, and of course, powder is so I don't envision I think Fricker or Bydey. I don't remember seeing half magic actually gotten in this particular run. But of course, powder itself is also a very nice safety. This is probably one of the best rocks in the game. Certainly not seen very often to be lifted as part of any run. Certainly kind of really cool to be able to see. All right. Okay. So yeah. So as you mentioned, so this is kind of where, in this case, both Bydey and Fricker are just gonna really hope for Aghanim to be even kinder than they normally are here in a standard single NMG run. Because the faster in this case Bydey can get through Aghanim 1, the sooner in this case Fricker has something to do. He can start his journey in both worlds.
Yeah. Alright, my guess is 2. Of course, it doesn't really count since it's already happening.
I guess 2 is average, right? I guess, yeah, like, or is it 3? I guess we always hope for 2. So we don't have to sit through an extra lightning cycle. Well, actually, yeah. What are the extra lightning cycle numbers? Is it 3 and 7?
It is, yeah.
Okay. Alright. Okay, so the hope is that we're not gonna hit 7. Although
oh yeah.
It looks like we're on our way there. Hopefully not gonna be too much more. I think actually so I guess as a bit of note, so Fricker and Bydey had, I think, a PB or their previous PB, which was earned earlier than the last one from 2 days ago, which actually had a 7 blue balls in their run. Oh, nice shield dodge, Clink there on Fricker's side. They actually beat their last PB actually only 2 days ago, and that was actually a 0 blue ball run. So in this case, I think they're just hoping for maybe a little bit better luck here in the marathon run as well.
Yeah, solid run so far, solid light world.
Yeah, and of course, you see that, as part of Bydey's journey, and the fact that he did end up taking down Aghanim, he of course is the only one between himself and Fricker to have to, in this case, listen to Sahasrah's warnings or premonitions, I guess, for the rest of the world.
Yep. So, through all of that, Fricker can go open Palace of Darkness. Bydey, on the other hand, can take this time to pick up Quake Medallion. And it's been interesting to see Bydey and Fricker optimize this run over time. I think there used to be a time where both runners would team up to complete Darkness, but I don't know when that changed, and now Fricker is on his own.
Well, if I were Bydey, I have every confidence in my partner Fricker to be able to, confidently and safely clear out Pod. And I also don't know in this case like when the route kind of split in this case. For one person in this case to take down Pod by themselves.
Right.
But of course, a point of note, of course, once you land on the pyramid, right, the, of course, intended path, in this case is, you don't have really much else kind of to do. You could either kind of go north to Catfish or, kind of probably venture your way into Pod, just because, a lot of our other venues are kind of blocked off, and namely, there are some hammer pegs here in the South Bridge that, if you don't go visit Pod, you can't really get the hammer, and you can't really, make any more progress further, and, kind of see, like, the rest of the Dark World. But of course, thanks to Fricker and Co-op, in this case, Fricker is incredibly close in order to unlock the hammer for both of them. So this is actually, I would say, like a really nice efficiency, for this route.
And Bydey really is enjoying entering the fray here on this enemy-packed screen.
Oh no, Fricker! That is unfortunate. A little bit. Looks like he didn't quite get maybe the second pixel, maybe?
I didn't look closely. I was afraid that the bomb was a little far to the right, but
okay.
We'll have to ask the experts later.
Yeah. but of course, this is why sometimes we have some extra bombs in this case. And of course, once Fricker picks up the hammer, he is, of course, certainly free and more than able to be able to take down Helmasaur, claim our first crystal here, at least with both of them. But of course, what is Bydey really interested in? He now has access to South Dark World, and what is his first stop? It is going to hopefully, in this case, unlock the flute, so we can go and get just a little bit of faster travel for the rest of the overworlds.
Yep.
It's so nice, right? Landing in the pyramid, like, much significantly earlier than sub 30. And then not only that, you basically, get, actually, you probably get the flute sub 30, right? In this case.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Imagine having a flute basically for all of, like, not even, I think, after, not even in this case, before your first crystal. Just basically get to travel everywhere.
Yeah.
Of course, looks like in this case the game state or world has changed. In this case, after Bydey has defeated Aghanim, so certainly going to be you can definitely see a lot of the same like NMG screens in co-op as you can in this case like the single run. So some nice turtles on Fricker's side, with full health, of course, going into Helmasaur. Hopefully this is going to be a reasonable fight for them. Oh, let's see. Who do you think designed that particular screen going into Lost Woods on Bydey's side? Like, it's like every single location that you want to be able to dash, there is some amount of obstacle that is like precisely, exactly, perfectly in your way. And I don't know like how much game testing they even ended up doing for that particular one. But it seems very difficult to do good movements or fast.
I assume it was Deer Force. The team behind Super Metroid.
That's all right. That's a potential good thought.
All right. We have Bydey going into Thieves Town, and this should look pretty straightforward. Coming up after this is Skull Woods, but it won't be completed, which is a kind of a surprising turn, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. And so I think as part of this route, just like for many of the cases, right, you want boots in this case as fast as possible, just because it gets you, or it gets both in this case, both Bydey and Fricker, a lot of movement option. Of course, you want to try and get the flute probably as fast as you can, just because it gives you a lot of overworld travel options. And of course, if we can get some offensive power as fast as possible, for example, that really nice and strong tempered sword, which of course in this case, Bydey is very quickly on his way in order to get the Titan's Mitts, so we can actually unlock tempered sword. Certainly going to be a high priority on their side. And potentially, my guess is that even though we do want the fire rod right now, potentially maybe we want to wait for a tempered sword in order so we can kill Moth a little bit safer and faster.
And the next dungeon for Fricker will be Swamp. So hopefully, by the time we get to Argus, we'll have Tempered Sword, because that fight is so much faster.
Oh, that's so true. That's actually one I think like the really nice, like surprises. In this case, right? So of course, maybe if those of you again who've maybe dabbled in the randomizer, you know that especially you can be forced in this case to fight Argus on maybe like Fighter's Sword. You would really, of course, like a Master Sword if you're, if those are your options. But it's certainly, both of those options compared to Tempered Sword is, as you just mentioned, Chance, significantly slower, and certainly I would say much less enjoyable. Right? You can't in this case get a zero cycle with and so I think it was certainly a really nice consequence in order to be able to just magically have tempered, by the time you get to Argus.
And we'll have Fire Rod, because Fricker's getting that.
That's right.
For us.
Yeah, so certainly should be. So, yeah, so by the time in this case, well, in this case, when we end up, Fricker ends up getting to Swamp and finishing it with Argus, it will be hopefully a very traditional looking NMG fight. Yeah, I mean, this is also another nice thing about co-op. This run is actually, I would say, incredibly fast-paced, right? I mean, so sometimes, especially in a single run NMG, you are, well, if you're running, right? You certainly feel sometimes like a little bit of pressure, especially if you're executing, to your best for every single room. But in this case, I think the action just doesn't stop on both sides. We're just getting like so much progression in this case on very quickly. It actually does really just show like the efficiency of the route.
Yeah, for sure. And in the world record route is less than an hour. So for anyone interested in running this, you can knock out several in just a few hours.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, so, like the amount of like safety and health that you have, in this case, like we actually saw the Fricker ended up getting the powder pretty early, right? One of the another consideration for safety, especially for the single run NMG, is well, do I get that's a nice anti-fear skip. In this case, do I get the mushroom? Do I get the mushroom to turn into powder? Can I fake powder? Am I ready to kind of drop powder or mushroom from my runs just because I know I won't have that safety? Arguably speaking, a co-op actually is a little bit safer, right? You're gonna get gold sword, you can get silvers, you can get powder early on as a really nice boost if you really need it. And certainly, of course, co-op you get to well, in this case, play with the friends as well.
Right, so Bydey is rescuing the frog and will earn Tempered Sword soon. Meanwhile, Fricker is completing Swamp Palace.
Yeah, it looks like it's actually. Do you know if this particular way is I guess like the more traditional or the classic Smith turn in on Bydey's side?
I may have been muted, but basically we'll see how that affects Bydey's route.
Yeah, alright, so, Bydey, of course, very conscious of the fact that he does, in fact, need 10 rupees, in this case, to talk to the smith and buy off the Temper Sword from him, in this case. I guess that is, in this case, like, we're part of the 100 rupees that he ended up picking up from Saha. Kind of help contribute in that manner. But of course, once this case Bydey picked up the Tempered Sword, the next time we see Fricker slash or dash his sword should be orange now instead of blue. Oh, look at that. Yeah, yeah, and of course, at this point, Fricker, and of course, Bydey, being on Temper Sword, being, with boots, I think they're probably, in a very comfortable spot in terms of execution.
So, one advantage of the Blanksmith's route is that we don't have to pick up heavy rocks on the way to Skullwoods. And Bydey does not do that because Bydey's not going to Skullwoods. He's just looting coming out of the Smith's house. So the classic method is faster.
That is actually really cool to know. That is actually something that is significantly different than the traditional NMT route.
Right, so... And Bydey's not just fluting to any old dungeon, he's fluting to Misery Mire. So, will this be the last major item? Bydey will be picking up Samaria. Certainly the last progression item, but it won't be the last item they pick up.
Yeah, right, and I think as you mentioned, right, just because we've made very steady progress. Both Bydey and Fricker have picked up a lot of major items. In this case, right, so Bydey is working his way very steadily to the last piece is Cadus Maria. Fricker just picked up the hookshot. All of these items, just basically grant you access, to kind of like the rest of the game. Right, we certainly saw that at the very beginning, as we mentioned, we were extremely limited for what we could do, before we could rescue Zelda, even with an escape. Right, we need the lamp, we need the sword, and of course after escape, we kind of need some, we kind of need a couple pendants, but we need the bow, we need the glove. Once we get the dark robe, we try and basically get the rest of the things that we need to clear out kind of like the rest of the dungeons. And of course, this type of, the more progression, you put on both runners in this case, the more parallelization, the more latitude they both have in order to kind of try and parallelize the work as much as they possibly can.
Oh, yeah.
Alright. Fricker onto his Argus fight. Looks like a very solid 0 cycle start so far. Oh, dude, was that the empty cycle? Aw, that was very unfortunate, but very excellent execution nonetheless. I think I would be curious to ask, either Bydey or Fricker, or maybe some other people who are more familiar with the route, if they think that there are any other kind of like areas, or actually maybe you even know this, Jax, if there are other parts of the route that people still think has like room for improvement.
Right, I'm sure Bydey has ideas. I'm not quite sure. Meanwhile, on Bydey's screen, going into Vitreous with 5 hearts seems a little scary.
Yeah, you're right, Shax, and for I would say normal NMG run, 5 hearts is very is a little bit of cause for concern, but I believe in this case, Bydey does have a powder if he's interested in using it right before the fight.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the call.
I think after especially that fire stake hit, then he was only down to 4 hearts. That probably was a warranted powder at that point. You can actually see in this case, the more traditional NMG fight is that we want to try and damage boost off of the slime that only takes 1 heart of damage, as opposed to, in this case, 4 hearts of damage. On a regular armor, Bydey actually starts out really nicely with a couple spins and just quite misses, in this case, the last couple 2 eyeballs to deny the 0 cycle.
So we're making our way to our last 2 crystal dungeons. Fricker is claiming Death Mountain and will be going to Turtle Rock, while Bydey goes to Ice Palace.
Yeah, and I think Bydey in this case probably wants so in this case, like Fricker and Bydey probably split up. Like Fricker says, "I'll go up the mountain, so he don't have to," and then Bydey's like, "Okay, well if that's the case because everything is shared, I'll just do everything that's not on the mountain." So as you mentioned,
oh yeah, right, 2 more dungeons.
Yeah, Bydey's gonna do Ice Palace, and then also because Fricker only claimed the Ice Rod from Skull Woods, Bydey's probably just gonna try and finish that up as well. Yeah, so again, watching, Bydey and Fricker's runs, if there are certain parts of, Bydey or Fricker's paths, right? This case, Bydey has claimed Macula and Cold Stare. If those are, not your cup of tea, you can always try out Fricker's route, and so you don't have to necessarily kill those bosses.
Kinda need to see Quake speed on Fricker's side. Going for a very, very short super speed after the Quake cutscene.
Do you have a favorite dungeon in this case, Chats? Like if you were to do co-op, do you have a preference for, whether it's like Bydey's route or Fricker's route you would prefer?
That's a great question. I used to think it was Ice Palace. So I'm just gonna go with that one. Why not? I don't have a particular favorite.
Okay. I think that's fair. I think that, you know, I imagine that some people may have like preferences for well, you know, it's like if you know, happen to not have an affinity for chops, as we're kind of seeing on Fricker's side, unfortunately. No. Oh my gosh. You know, the good news is, of course, only one out of the two people running this co-op has to do chain chops. Alright, but Fricker,
I think what's go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say Fricker at least gets through relatively unscathed, right? It's certainly not gonna be as bad, you know, we don't have to necessarily worry about did we keep a fairy in Agate Tower, you know, type of thing. You know, we do have powder, just in case if anything goes terribly, terribly wrong. But in this case, if Fricker does have a good amount of health left at the chance.
Bydey on Timoth fight. It wasn't the optimal fight, but it gets the job done. And we get a fairy drop for Fricker.
Yeah, that's maybe. Actually, I guess maybe this is a question for. Well, actually, I don't know if you would also know this. Like, do you know how the price packs like are they individual in this case? Like, they're not shared among.
Answer.
Okay.
Don't know the answer.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to ask somebody about a link to the pass online, because I feel like that's more of like a tech issue. Or like a tech like a tech question. You know, in this case, the price packs are like counted as resources versus like, you know, major items. Not the best RNG. Fricker for Pokies too. Fricker is trying to get through. Yeah. Oh, thank you, right? In this case, alright. At least there is some confirmation that they are individual. So how, if Fricker meant to or was planning on having the price pack and the fairy drop and TR for the Pokies, that's some pretty dang good planning on his part.
Yeah, I'd say, I'd say that Fricker doesn't have to worry about the blue guards in Agate Tower. Fricker, if Fricker is not doing Agate Tower. Meanwhile, I want to quickly mention Bydey sets up the spooky action. Like, he clears the well, what is it? He sets the spooky action variable by calling the duck while swimming. Or just before swimming.
So it actually doesn't matter in this case if the duck is like on the screen. You just have to do it while you're swimming. Oh, okay, that is also really good knowledge to know.
Yeah. The variable we the value we want is just after calling the duck and while it's flying. It's fine too.
Interesting. These are really good, interesting things to know. It's like I think at least in the original NMG route, right? You just have to, in this case, like call the flute before the duck appears on the screen and enter the portal. So it's really cool to like kind of know that there's also another difference here in the co-op run. That was also, I don't know if that was planned on Bydey's side. That was his last bomb to make Ice Pal's bomb jump. But you know, again, I'm not actually quite sure what the exact like resource route is for both of these runners. But you know, again, if we're going to be left with a zero bomb situation, could also be another optimization at least for the individual runner.
Yeah, it gets a little scary there.
Yeah, unfortunately, no stair clip. In this case, we're gonna have to kind of traverse like the stairs, the more traditional method. But he gets it through relatively okay. And you know, as Fricker in this case is claiming his, in this case, Zelda crystal from Turtle Rock. He is basically going to be waiting for Bydey to claim his, basically this is the last crystal of the entire game. And of course, because, you know, Fricker is right on the mountain and Bydey is basically just landing into Cold Stare by the time that Bydey claims his sixth crystal, in this case, you know, Fricker's going to have access to this tower.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that occurs when the crystal falls.
Yeah, it was a really nice fight for Bydey to take down Cold Stare. All right, I mean, and for this is, oh, how? And I think you mentioned this too, right? We have to, I guess, wait for part of the cutscene or later, a little bit later after the cutscene. It's not. This wasn't quite immediate on crystal pickup.
Right.
But this was really nice timing
after the
though.
fanfare.
Mm-hmm.
Unless there's a delay between Bydey and Fricker, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
And with Fricker holding on to the tower during the cutscene, I wonder if that saves additional lag
frames
or scan lines.
These are questions that don't normally come up in the single, NMG run. All right, so yeah, so in this case, when when Fricker ended up claiming, the rest of Death Mountain, GT was certainly part of the package. So maybe for those of you who more enjoy like the traditional end game, sequencing, Turtle Rock, Ganon's Tower, Fricker's route certainly could be for you. So in this case, Fricker is on his way basically to, well, more or less traditional, single NMG, end game. Go get the big key. And then once he has the big key, he is going to scale up Ganon's Tower, defeat Agatu, and then at some point there's going to be a big hole, bat-shaped hole on top of the pyramid waiting for Bydey to fall into.
I'm not quite sure what Bydey was going for, fighting an Octorok with Ice Rod.
Oh, did he need money?
Oh, yeah. That must be
it. So maybe that's what the 100 rupees are for. He needs military money. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, from way back. I figured that out while we were talking.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I think he had 100 from there, and then he ended up getting I assume it's just like the 10 rupees were just for food drops at some point. And so he just needed a couple more to kind of make his debt whole, in this case, after paying off the smiths.
I'd be curious if silver arrows can be collected before Ice Armos, but it looks like it would just kind of depend on...
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Dungeon performance, or maybe optimally it just doesn't work. I'm not quite sure.
That is something that is actually a really interesting point of optimization. If something like this can be done, certainly would save some time. Also, would save some time here on the gauntlet climb as well if you can do it before mimics.
Yeah. And I'm almost wondering if Skullwoods can be done even later, but...
Oh, so you can get the 5-6 crystals earlier. That's a good point.
Probably not, because I'm here in the commentator's booth not having run this before.
Well, I mean, these are...
I'm just speculating.
Yeah, but I think that these are probably like valid questions to ask, especially if you can maybe talk to Bydey and Fricker a little bit afterwards. I'm not sure what exactly the logistics will be, but certainly I think a very interesting point to ask about. Yeah, and of course, so I'm not actually sure how how frequent NMG runners actually see like Pyramid Fairy like in the original game, or maybe like even like the upgrade fairy in like the waterfall in like Hylia Island. These are always kind of scenes that I would say like really refreshing to kind of see, just to remind you what it kind of was like. When you actually ended up kind of either playing this game casually or we're actually still going for this maybe when you're first starting out to run. Yeah, All right, so Bydey is right now he is just like Fricker in this case was waiting for Bydey to kind of defeat Agnum 1, get through all the blue balls. Bydey is patiently in this case waiting right on top of where the hole would actually spawn once after this case Fricker defeats Agnum 2. So, I guess, if you are, I understand this is co-op, this is Fricker and Bydey, working together, but if you wanted to, kind of like pit these guys, against each other on the very last, fight, which is Ganon, Bydey is going to have like a, I don't know, 3-second lead or something, dropping down into Ganon.
Yeah, that's one of those interesting flags that are set during the cutscene. But it makes sense.
Yeah, and I think just like Agnum 1, we're hoping for, as few blue balls as possible. I think Fricker and Bydey are also hoping for as few blue balls from, Agnum 2 as well.
Yeah, and then in the Ganon fight, it's not just hoping for as few warps as possible from one fight. It's whoever gets the whoever gets the more warps is what the final time is going to depend on.
That is true. That's true. All right, Fricker, on to the Agnum 2 fight. Let us hope, in this case, hi Bydey. Yeah, let us hope this case Agnum 2 is gonna be, very friendly in terms of patterns. All right, all right. So we got 2 and 2 so far. Hopefully, this pattern is going to be able to let Fricker get at least a nice 2-2-2-3 cycle. No blue balls. Very very nice. All right, we are ready. In this case, we are actually making, I would say, very excellent time. Ready basically to drop down again and to see a pretty much synced up Ganon fight before we can both claim the Triforce. All right, as noted, Bydey is the first one in this case, to drop down into Ganon. So they both do have a gold sword and silvers, a significantly easier fight than the normal NMG. In this case, Ganon phases. No, of course, Fricker. Okay, so but of course, you're still in green mail, so Fricker does have to be a little bit careful. These bats could do a good amount of harm. But in this case, of course, Gold Sword will try and basically get through the Ganon phases. The first two couple much easier. You have much less pressure in order to get like the 1-on-1 versus tempered. Bydey also gets the torch glitch from afar. Looks really cool, but of course, with silver arrows, we actually can see on Fricker's side that, the torch glitch actually does not matter. Oh, dude! Oh, Fricker! Taking the lead here on a phase 4 Ganon! Holy cow, that was
there we go.
amazing. Yeah! Well then, get your GGs here out in chat for both Fricker and Bydey. Alright, looks like Fricker crossed at 55-10. Bydey is going to finish very shortly after waiting for this fanfare. 55-18 looks like. Man, really nicely done, guys. That was a very entertaining run, co-op run.
Yo, what's up?
What's up, Bydey? GG's, guys.
Thank you.
Congrats to Fricker for winning the race.
Yeah, we got the record by 3 seconds.
Oh, that's right. Oh, dude, I even forgot that. That's right. The record was 55-21, right?
Yeah, 55-21.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, just 3-second PB. Nice job.
That's awesome. I knew there was a PB chance. That was live. So what do you attribute to this great time to?
I mean, really, we're not really happy with this, in all honesty. I know we got the record and stuff, but it's not a great run, really. Like, we got 4 blue balls, and it wasn't really our greatest. Like, we do have quite a bit of time to save, like at least 20, 30 seconds. I mean, we're happy over the moon to obviously get it on a marathon, but yeah, like we got a lot more work to do. We can definitely get a 54 easy. So it's not surprising. We got a PB. So. But yeah, I'm happy to get it in a run. So.
Yeah, great to hear. Sub 55 is on the horizon.
Yeah, yeah, actually, and so when you say like you have like a good like 20-30 seconds to save, I mean, is that from like routing, or is that from execution? Is that from just like better timing, of things when they're picked up?
We haven't had a run where we've got through without a mistake. So this time, obviously, Frick failed hammer jump, so like 10 or 15 seconds there, and then 4 blue balls as well. So there's another 30 seconds there, right? So 45 seconds easily. So obviously one's RNG heavy. I think in a run before this there was a death somewhere, and then the one before that I think I had a really rough dark one. We haven't really got through, and one of the main things that you might not realize is just because one person's losing time doesn't necessarily mean you're losing time overall. Basically, the whole concept is to try and get to Ganon's tower and have no waiting. Obviously, he figured out to wait 5 seconds, but in a really good run, he wouldn't have to wait.
Right.
That's your timing point to how well you did in the run.
Right.
The route is all based around that. Basically, you always sort of have to wait somewhere in the run. Like you'll see in this run, I waited at the hammer pegs for about 30 seconds. Usually it's about 30 seconds. If you try and change that round, you'll be waiting somewhere else. You might wait at TR, you might wait because it's all about negating the waiting. And right now we've basically negated it to around 30 to 40 seconds at hammer pegs. So if someone's got a better route, we'd love to see it. So we're trying to promote it and hopefully get some more people running the game.
Yeah, for anyone interested, this is on the ALTTP CE section of speedrun.com. That's right. So feel free to stop by. Check out the runs.
Co-op is on console now, so that makes things a lot easier to run.
Yeah, I mean, this run also just looked super fun, right? And it's actually like really cool to be able to see like one person pick up the big key, the next person pick, and immediately in this case like pick up like the dungeon item, right? I think this happened in Eastern, right? You can, and then of course, you can get the boots, I think roughly a minute faster than normal NMG, something like that. I mean, it's just so cool to be able to see all of the different like the route, being incredibly efficient, and you guys just like are just constantly moving. So, and of course, you get to talk to each other, right? That's also part of the fun, in theory.
Yeah, we talk to each other. We also shout at each other a little bit.
That's part of the fun.
It honestly is a lot of fun. I mean, I've been running Link to the Past for a couple of years now, and Fricker a lot longer than me. And I think I can say with all honesty that of everything I've ever done, I think this is the most fun I've had playing the game, for sure. So it is a lot of fun if you have a good partner and you have fun together.
That is so endearing to hear.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Obviously, shout out to Jex and Claire for jumping on for the comms. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you both.
This was a ton of fun. Really glad for at least being asked to be a part of this.
Yeah, really fun to watch and good to talk to you guys about it.
I don't remember what our estimate was. I think 1 hour 5 minutes. So we should be keeping up on that, I
think the next run is in like 20 minutes. We gotta stop finishing our estimates so quickly, Bydey.
Did I put 115 or 105?
Don't know. It looks like 115 was the estimate. I don't know why you made it that high, but
less pressure.
Maybe planning for extra blue balls or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, well, if you have a death, right? But that's the thing. Like, if you estimate low, and then all of a sudden you have 2 deaths while you're 5 minutes behind, right? think planning for the worst is better, but not getting a death is obviously great in a marathon.
So I guess I'm curious from your perspectives. Like, so when you're running, I guess like as co-op, like, do you think the execution or like the survivability of the individual co-op runs, like compared to NMG, like, do you think it's easier? Do you think it's harder? Do you think it's maybe about the same?
It's harder.
It is harder. Why do you think that?
It's harder because your partner doesn't get dungeon refills. So as soon as I beat a dungeon, I get the refill. My partner doesn't, and also he gets an extra heart that also doesn't get refilled. So a lot of the times where we're using NMG strats or beam strats, all of a sudden we go into a room and we don't have beams anymore because our partner had gotten a dungeon heart.
Oh,
so
that's funny.
It changes a lot, yeah.
And every single run is completely different, so the communication is huge, because you could go into a room, you're ready to do a beam strat, and this happened a lot when we started running. All of a sudden he's like, wait, what the hell's going on? He'd lose his beams and completely screw the room up, or vice versa, and you're like, oh shoot, I just got the heart, I forgot to tell you. So like and it always changes position because you're never at the same point at the same time, so that always changes. So I think obviously knowing how far ahead you are, right? Because I knew, like, obviously at Fricker, a little mistaken pod there, I knew that I didn't have to go hard, because I knew that I was already ahead. And at that point there, when we hit the dark world, I knew it was going to be sort of catch up. So I wasn't having to play really hard, and so I might have powdered before Bydey, or taken a couple of places a little bit safer just to make sure I get there. But on another run, if he's going really, really well and I make a few mistakes, well, I got to go hard. So the strats are going to change. I'm going to, play a lot faster and a lot harder, but there's obviously a bigger chance of dying. I think in marathon run, we kind of, just wanted to avoid a death, really. So.
Mm-hmm. I mean, no, all these points that you brought up, like, it didn't even occur to me in this case that it's like normally you think it's a co-op, especially we share, I guess, like the major things, right? Like the inventory items, hammer, bow, flute, right, boots, right? You're like, oh man, this can only benefit me, right? And then you actually think about, oh, that's right, this specific room, you come into Mario 2 and then suddenly you don't have beams for it. It's like, well, that suddenly just made that room a lot slower.
Yeah, exactly. And we just changed the routing in this run too. So we used to split pod together. One would get the hammer and then bounce out, and the other one would finish.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And that routing worked well, but we did a lot of timing scenarios, and Bydey just going up to get Quake and then waiting at the pegs actually saved more time. So it's really hard to time some of these routing scenarios, because when you try to change it and then time it, it depends on how you do. It depends on how the other player does for execution. So it's really hard to gauge where you're at with the routing. But we just changed to this route and we think it's pretty solid. So
yeah, actually, I think Chex and I were actually wondering that, because so Chex mentioned at some point that you guys were that you guys both did pod and then one exited early, but in this case we saw only one of you did pod. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with that old routing where we split pod, we actually used to split GT too, where one person would get all the way through Armos or Ice Armos and then split off to get Silvers and Gold Sword, while the other person just went right into GT and headed upstairs to Gauntlet. So there's a lot of different scenarios that we could do. We're just unsure of what's going to be the best. So
I think the biggest challenge, just to touch on that, from a timing perspective, it's not like NMG. You don't just fire it up and do a room or do a section and be like, okay, this saves time. You basically have to go through the entire route, because it might save time, but then I'm 20 seconds ahead on this route versus what we would do before. So how does that affect the rest of the dungeon? So sometimes you'd be like, oh yes, this is saving 20 seconds. Then all of a sudden I went to TR and I'm standing outside TR for 45 seconds because Fricker's too far behind, right? And we're like, well, this actually loses time, but you don't realize it till you get there. And it's like, okay, so then we sort of switch that up. And then, basically if you switch something up, you're going to be waiting somewhere. So the TR, GT, there's a couple other spots where you're waiting for the other player. and it was a lot of just trial and error going through physical runs to see, okay, where are we waiting the least, and this is kind of what we come up with in the end. So we've been tracking our waiting times all through our routing, and this was like our least time by like 10 or 15 seconds or something like that. So.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, other than that, the run went pretty clean. I don't know if you two had noticed, but at the beginning of the run, there is a small key sync issue in Escape.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah,
sometimes
I think we did see that.
yeah, so if Bydey or myself gets an extra key, obviously we can beat the system and just walk right through the door. We don't want to do that for certain purposes. So sometimes when that key sync issue happens, Bydey has to wait on my queue to go through doors, even though he already has another key, which he shouldn't have.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so got to be kind of careful with that for like legitimacy purposes. Yeah, other than go ahead.
Sorry, no, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, other than that, it's a super fun run. If you have a good partner, I mean, we'd love to see more people run this. You can get into the Discord of A Link to the Past online, and the setup is super easy. And to be able to connect to each other, even on console, is just as easy. So we'd love to see more runners team up and have fun with this.
Just before we forget, I'd love to see a huge shout out to JSD over at A Link to the Past Online. He is the dev and the creator, I believe, of this A Link to the Past Online, and I think Solidius is another big tester. They've been working together with us. This used to be ran on an Angel script, which there's no way to say it was complete ass. And we basically upgraded to this, and then eventually got it onto console, and it's just been a growing progress. And anytime we've had an issue, we fire off to him. He gets the log files. He's working hard on it. Next day he's got something up for us to try. So we've been working back and forth with the team there, and literally they're the only reason that we can play this game and have this co-op category. So again, huge shout out to those guys there.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly looked like like the lot of the tech support was there for basically this run or these types of run to basically even happen to begin with, right? And I think Brian, I think you both mentioned before that like now that you can actually play on console, it like definitely increases so much more accessibility for people.
There's one
limited to emulator.
There's one downside to the console, and that is that you're not on the same screen. So when we used to do it on the emulator, you would actually be on the same screen running through Escape at the same time. When we did the Ganon fight, you would be fighting Ganon at the same time, so there'd be 2 Ganons and 2 Links.
Oh.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun to watch, but obviously emulators is so much lag, it's impossible to play. So it wasn't really fun for us. But
it is pretty silly to see other runner like 2 runners bouncing against and bouncing away as they slash Ganon. But it's not really necessary for the viewers, of course. So what we saw was all we wanted to see. So I'm happy about that.
There is you can actually get up to I think 10 or 15 players in the same game. So
and you can do
oh really?
Player versus
you
player.
you can do player versus player and PvP as well. So there's lots of fun you could have. I've kind of debated doing a Master Sword race with PvP on and doing a 15 versus 15 and just basically 15 people running through Escape. You can kill each other, like you could mess each other up. Like I think it would be a lot of fun and just for like a random Saturday one month or something to try and get that.
Yeah, that does sound fun.
Yeah, I was actually gonna ask. So right now, it's like the 90% NMG, right? For co-op, like, are there potential for like other types of categories, like Master Sword, for example?
Yeah, for sure. We can put up any category that people want to run on the leaderboard, and people are already running all dungeons.
Yep.
Oh, really?
RMG.
I'm looking to route 100% co-op. So
yeah, that was the other one I was going to ask. I don't know why I asked about Master Sword first. I was like, I know Hundo was on my mind very recently.
Hundo would be fun for co-op.
Yeah, this actually does look like a lot of fun.
It also, now thinking about it, there'd be a lot of on-the-fly stuff because chess game and dig game, when you might actually have to start switching stuff up on the fly based on how those go. So it could be a lot of fun. We've been told to wrap this up. So yeah, thanks again. Thanks for commentary.
Yeah, thank you for your commentary, and shout outs to all the Link to the Cure staff. I appreciate all you guys. Thanks for having us.
Thanks all.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was our pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.